Hey friends, welcome to Girls Night. I am so happy to be here with you for season 20 of the show. I cannot believe we are on season 20. I can't believe we've been doing this for as long as we have been. And I just am so happy to be back. If you are new to Girls Night, which I know some of you might be, I want to tell the story of where Girls Night began just to catch you up a little bit. So there I was, a born people pleaser and rule follower who second guesses everything, suddenly finding myself in a brand new marriage, in a brand new city with $11 in my bank account. Did I mention I just lost my job? Oh yeah, I just lost my job. My whole future was up in the air and I had no idea what to do next. And do you know what helped me in that season more than anything else? And basically in every season of my life since? Girls' nights. Girls' nights with my real life best friends were my lifeline that year. My friends and I would pool our pizza money, maybe spring for a bottle of Prosecco, and then we would sit together and workshop our lives. Those nights made me feel so much less alone in my experiences. And having a safe place to process and dream gave me more than just a vision for the life that I wanted. It filled me up with enough courage and confidence to actually make it happen. Some of the most pivotal moments of my whole life have happened at girls' nights, surrounded by women who have been where I am and who have gotten to where I want to go, women who get it and get me and who are in my corner no matter what. Those nights and the collective wisdom of the women who were there have led to some of the best decisions of my life. And that's why I knew we had to get more people in the room. And that's where the Girls Night podcast comes from. The Girls Night podcast was born out of those experiences. This is a safe place to bring the things that you're struggling with, the decisions you don't even know how to begin to make, and the transitions that are keeping you up at night. This is a safe place to say what you're really thinking, how you're really feeling, how you're really doing. And what you'll receive here is support, encouragement, and connection to other women who actually know how you feel because they've been there too. Best of all, you'll get to hear from women who can help you through this. Each week on the show, I interview some of the world's wisest women on the topics that keep us up at night. Together, we get to learn from their research, their wisdom, their insight, their experiences, and you'll walk away from each episode with both clarity and confidence, knowing what your next step is and also how to take it. We're navigating big life decisions and giant transitions, one girl's night at a time, and we saved a seat just for you. I'm so glad you're here. So since this is our first episode of season 20 and a whole new year, we have a couple of housekeeping things to talk about, and then we'll get into the episode and what I want to share with you today. So we have a huge year ahead of us here on Girls Night. We have some incredible guests, some incredible topics, things that I know that I really resonate with, people that I've been wanting to talk to forever and learn from. My favorite thing about this show is that it gives us an excuse to pick the brains of women that we would never have access to otherwise. Like, this show is such a fun thing because we get to send out emails to people and be like, hey, I love your work. Any chance you'd spend an hour with me and answer all the questions that myself and everyone else would like to ask you? And they actually say yes, because we've had this show around for so long. And so that's really what we're doing this year. We're going to be talking to people that I know I've looked up to for years, that I've learned so much from. We're going to be talking about topics that I really struggle with, that I know you really struggle with, and get us some answers. And I can't wait to dive in. Something else that we're going to be doing this year is this is a year where I'm going to get to share several courses with you guys that I haven't really gotten to share all that much lately. If you've been following around with my corner of the internet for a while, you know that this last year, 2024, was a huge year for me. It was a year I had a brand new book come out called Create a Life You Love. And if you've ever watched an author, if you are an author or you've ever watched an author go through a book launch, it's like completely all consuming. That's like all I could do last year. And I also did a TED Talk, which was also incredibly time-consuming and nerve-wracking and wonderful and fun. And I'm so honored that I got to do it. And then, also my family moved to Spain last year. So it was a busy year. More on that another day. But because of that, there are these different courses that I have created and taught throughout the last handful of years that have sort of just been sitting in my back pocket. And this is a year where we're going to work through some of these things together and like move forward. So a couple of those topics are, one, my husband Carl and I are going to be teaching our course for newlyweds again this year, potentially even twice. It's called Just Married, and it's a course about how to transition into marriage well. It's for couples who have been married in the last handful of years and who are looking to really lay a solid foundation for the life and the family that they're building together. We talk through some of the trickiest, there are just some areas of marriage, especially when you're newly in it, that are like potholes that are really easy to fall into. And so in this course, we try to cover some of those potholes to just make your ride smoother and make sure that you guys are able to get where you want to go, get there together, and actually enjoy the process. So that's just married. That's coming later. And so we'll have a bunch of episodes this year all about marriage and being a newlywed and what that transition looks like, because I know we have a lot of women in that season of life in our community. And then I'm stepping into something that I've never gotten to really talk about before, and that is motherhood. Something that's really important to me is that I don't talk about what I'm learning necessarily in real time, partially because I'm so busy learning it. And so up to my eyeballs in the process myself, that I wouldn't know how to walk anyone else through it. But also because I want to make sure I really have a grasp on something, that I really am to the other side before I attempt to try to teach anybody anything. I just feel like I don't know enough to teach until then. But now my girls, I'm a mom to twin girls. They are 4 years old. So I feel like I'm actually a little bit into motherhood now. I've gotten through the transition, especially that transition of that first year. And so that's what I want to go back and talk about. I am so excited about this. I'm going to be partnering with my best friend, Kelsey, who is a licensed professional counselor who specializes in work with families and parents, helping them become the parents that they want to be. And so together, we're going to be putting together a course that really everything that we needed in that first year to help women as they're navigating the craziness that season is, help them know what they don't need to worry about, navigate the things that they do need to worry about, and get through it with their sense of self intact and with their marriage intact and with their friendships intact. And it really is a destabilizing season of life, a beautiful one, but a hard one. And so we want to equip moms as they're becoming moms. So that's coming this year. And then really, what I thought was not coming this year, so we'll have a bunch of episodes on Girls' Night talking about motherhood as well, especially those early stages. But what I didn't know that we would be talking about this year was singleness and dating. I want to back up a little bit and tell you kind of my story of how I became the person that talks about singleness and dating. Back in 2012, I started a blog. I guess it technically started in 2011 while I was traveling around the world for a year. And I loved the process of blogging. Prior to that, I'd been a small group leader in a college ministry. And I just loved working with women and getting to hear their stories and getting to really, like we do here on Girls' Night, pool our collective wisdom as women and workshop our lives together. So that's what I'd been doing as a small group leader and working in women's ministry. And then I happened to go on this trip, which was amazing. And they asked us to keep a blog. So I did. And I found that through that blog, I was doing women's ministry in a way that I just never could have imagined. At the time, something that I was really going through and processing in my own life and that I had been for years was what it meant to be single and what dating was like and how to hold on to hope of meeting your person when that is such a consuming desire in your heart, how to put yourself out there, what that looks like, how to do that how to do that well. I met my husband around that time and we got married. And so I had a ton of women asking me for advice about singleness and dating. That was one of the primary things. I'd get emails just saying, hey, what do I do about this? Hey, what do I do about this? And what I really wanted to do in that moment was be helpful. I wanted to be able to say, hey, there's this book, changed everything for me. This is really what got me through. Read it. Or here's a course, or here's whatever. The problem was that I couldn't really find anything that I really resonated with. I didn't have anything that guided me through. I had, kind of a collection of family and friends and mentors and, this idea from this book and it's something a girlfriend said to me at a girls' night one time. And then a bunch of my own experience, things that I did the wrong way, things that I sort of guessed and got right and did well. And those were the experiences that I was drawing from. And I just didn't see anybody reflecting those in a way, I didn't see anybody giving advice that I felt confident passing on to anybody else. And so that's when I decided to make it. That's kind of been one of the things, the guiding principles in my whole life is if there's something in the world that you want to exist, make it yourself. And so that's what I did with my course, Love Your Single Life. it was crazy because it was kind of before courses really took off. There weren't very many people doing online courses. Online school was like just kind of becoming an option that like very few people were taking. But I thought, how would I do this in person if I could gather a group of women together in my living room and just work through this together? Like, what's the closest I can get to that? And so recording some videos and doing some workbooks and like making it this kind of immersive journey was the best way that I came up with to do that. And that was almost 10 years ago. And just the most amazing thing happened after I put that together. We had, over the course of the 8 years really that I was teaching it, we had more than 7,000 women sign up for the course. The stories that I got to hear of how God was using the course in women's lives were just like off the charts, like just beyond what I ever could have asked for or imagined or hoped for. We had women who met their person shortly after or while taking the course and got married and went on to have kids. And we saw so many love stories come out of the course. We saw so many women meet their best friends, either because of something that we talked about in the course or through the course. Like so many women have gotten to be best friends with other women who are taking it at the same time. We've seen women go back to school. We've seen women quit jobs that weren't good for them, break up with people that weren't good for them, grow in their confidence, grow in their sense of identity. We've seen women, move all the way across the world, adopt pets, adopt kids, chase dreams, learn new languages, like all kinds of things, just like really step into the lives that they've wanted to live. We really have seen an amazing amount of love stories come out of this course. And I just had no idea that's what was going to happen. So I taught this course for about 8 years and I loved it. The only problem was that it took a lot of time and energy to put it together. I would teach it twice a year. And so there was always kind of a lead up of prep and getting everything ready. And then I would teach it and it's about a month long. And then, we'd have some like cleanup duty afterwards to, kind of get everything buttoned up and make sure everyone's all settled. And so it really took like the majority of my year to teach this course twice a year, which meant that there wasn't really a whole lot of room for anything else. For years, I didn't have anything, like I never got to share anything about marriage, even though I learned so much through the transition into marriage. And then same with having kids, I haven't had the chance to really share any of the things that are in my head that made such a difference for me in the transition into becoming a mom. And so a couple years ago, as I was working on my new book, Create a Life You Love, I thought, I think that my time has come. I think that I have taught this to maybe everyone who needs it. And, maybe I've said all the things I need to say. I haven't been single in a while. And so, maybe there are some women who can kind of pick up this baton and run with it. And I can just sort of like sit on the sidelines of this conversation. And so about 2 years ago, I taught Love Your Single Life for what I thought was the last time. And I've just sort of sat on the sidelines of this conversation about singleness and dating and what that's supposed to look like for us as women for the last couple of years. And really, that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And then not long ago, I got to go to lunch with one of my favorite people. This woman has been a friend of mine for years. She's incredibly wise. She's just truly brilliant. She's one of the most inspirational people in my life. She's one of the wisest voices. She's like in my cabinet of people that I listen to more than like almost anybody else. She happens to be single, which is like the least important, interesting thing about her. And it's something that she struggles with. She is single longer than she thought she would be. Like, I think a lot of you listening can relate to that. She's single long past when she thought she would be. A lot, if not most of her people, her friends, her family are coupled up, married, starting like having kids. And so she feels behind. It's also tricky because she's nailing it in so many different areas of her life. And she feels so lost in this one that there's sort of this disconnect of like, what is wrong with me that I can figure out all these other things, but not this? And it kind of feels like this, dating, relationships, that is something that other people seem to do really naturally, which further increases the feeling of like, why can't I do this? And also because singleness, dating, romance, putting yourself out there, love, like all these things are so tied to the center of our hearts and like the tenderest, most vulnerable parts of ourselves. It's really hard to talk about it. because it feels different than like, oh, I applied for this job and I didn't get this job. That's about your skills, or that's about who they were looking to add onto their team or something. That's like a surface level thing. When someone rejects you when you're dating or isn't interested in you when you're interested in them, that's like a rejection of your deepest part. And it's just really hard to talk about. And so anyway, we went to lunch, and we don't always talk about singleness or dating or what that looks like for her, but we did that day. And it was just a conversation I can't stop thinking about, mostly because I was so honored she had it with me. I was so honored that she trusted me to go into this like tender place with her. And at the end of the conversation, one of the things she said was like, you're probably the only person I would talk to about this. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, what made me think that I shouldn't be talking about this anymore? In the months after that conversation, I've also gotten to see, again, the same thing that I've seen for the last, 10 years, with this being something that I talk about, that there's just really bad advice out there. There really is. Most of the advice that's circulating, especially in faith communities, about how to date, how to be single, like, how to interact with people that you're interested in, like all of it, marriage, the advice is really bad. And not just bad in a way that's laughable, although some of it is laughable, but bad in a way that it sets us back from where we actually want to be. It makes the journey longer. It makes the journey harder. Some of the advice actually prevents us from meeting the people that we want to meet and getting into the relationships we want to get into. And so I'm watching this bad advice. I'm watching people say just the wrong thing to brilliant single women. I'm watching people treat my friends like they're not good enough and that's why they're single, or, maybe they haven't prayed hard enough and that's why God is withholding a spouse from them, or that they shouldn't be putting themselves out there. They should just sort of be waiting for it to happen. Or, well, you shouldn't be talking to a guy like that, or you shouldn't do this, or, oh, you should do this. And I'm like, this is making everything harder. This is terrible advice. And also, don't talk to my friend that way. It's just incredible to me that anyone would look at such brilliant, incredible, loving, full of life, full of goodness women and act like there's something wrong with them because of their relationship status. That's just crazy to me. And so both of those things kind of mixing together, this incredible conversation with a friend and the honor that I feel that I'm a person she would trust with this, and this kind of don't talk to my friends that way energy that's been building and building over the last 2 years as I've been sitting on the sidelines of this conversation. I started this year and was like, okay, we need to bring this course back. I have to be talking about this. I can't sit on the sidelines anymore. And so I don't know if I'm going to be teaching this course forever. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what this looks like in 2 months, let alone 2 years or 20 years. I have no idea. But I just know that there are some things that I learned in my own journey that made the whole thing so much easier. And it's made it so much easier for so many women in the years since. Like, I just can't sit on it. And so that is why we're talking about this today. That's why we're back. So in this episode today, I want to share with you 3 things that I shared with my friend that day, that I've shared with so many women that I love and respect. And that, like, these are 3 of the things that moved my love story forward in the most profound way. Not tiny little improvements, not baby steps, but like really big leaps. Trying to focus on these 3 things made a huge difference. And so that's why I wanted to kick off this brand new year by sharing them with you today. Okay, so the first thing is to meet more people. This is a really hard one for those of us who are introverts or who love making plans, but then like having them canceled at the last minute. I'm definitely one of those people. I think I'm right on the line between introvert and extrovert. And yeah, there's nothing like the sweetness of being like, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this thing. I have plans. And then at the last minute being like, oh, I don't have to go. Okay, great. So meeting new people, meeting more people is hard. It's hard for all of us, but it is absolutely essential if you are going to have any hope of meeting a person who you might want to share your life with. One of the worst pieces of advice I think that is shared in circles where they're talking about singleness and dating and how to navigate it all is this idea that you are doing things right if you're really passive about your love life. If you are not putting yourself out there, if you're just waiting and being patient, there's almost this idea that like the very best thing you can be doing is be at home doing some sort of personal growth thing, and he's just going to ring your doorbell. And then that's where your love story will start. And I think that so many women are sitting here going, yeah, I feel like that's kind of the bill of goods that I was sold. I felt like I was just told to be patient, be good and be patient. And if I'm good and if I'm patient, then my person will show up. And that hasn't happened. And so I think that there really is a piece missing. And I think we understand the piece that's missing when we think about meeting our person like getting a job. No one would ever recommend looking for a new job by doing nothing. That's just not how it works. We know that in order to get a new job, to move forward in your career, you have to know what you're looking for. It's hard to find a good job if you have no idea what kind of job you want. You need to have some skills in that area. You need to have that time of personal growth where you're getting better at some things, like, maybe there's some work habits or personal attributes that you've had to let go of in order to be a better coworker, leader, boss, employee. Then you have to network. You have to go out there and meet people who can help you meet people who can help you meet people who might have a job for you, because most jobs are gotten that way. And the very least, you have to apply. No one is going to know that you want this job or that you are capable of doing this job unless you find the job you want to apply for, send them your resume and like an application and say, hi, I exist, please hire me. And then the other thing that we understand about job searches, for the most part, is that it's going to take a while. You probably aren't going to get the first job that you apply for. And it's usually not because you're not qualified. It's because how many resumes are sitting on the HR person's desk? Like 1 million. How many online submissions have they gotten? A ton. Maybe there's so many places where wires can get crossed or like the funnel can break down. Maybe they forgot to take that job down. Maybe it's an old job posting that just has been sitting there for ages. Or maybe it's something that they had to put up because I think legally you're supposed to, but they've already picked out someone internally that they want to take that position. Or maybe you would have been great for the position, but they just didn't see your resume in time. Maybe that you do interview, but the person who, they're also considering for the position just happens to be a little bit better of a fit. Like there are so many things that can go into you not getting a job, which means you have to put yourself out that much more if you're going to get to the end of the process. This is also true in relationships. Just statistically, the idea that we walk down the street and just happen to bump into the exact right person that's for us is unlikely, especially if we're not spending very much time walking down the street. And so that's really what this first one is about, is knowing that you are so much more likely to meet one person who's great for you if you meet 100 people, period. Out of that 100 people, there's so much more likely to be one person in that group that's great for you than there is for you to meet one person and them to just be the one. And I get it. That is such a cleaner love story and more romantic in so many ways and exactly what we're hoping for. And I think in a lot of ways, what we've been promised that God is going to give us. And sometimes he does. Sometimes that is the story. But I think that in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, God wants participation from us in the lives that he's given us. And that participation just means going out and meeting people, putting one foot in front of the other, sending out the application so that people know you exist and even know to consider you for the position or for a date. So that's the first thing, is this year, you got to meet more people. You've got to just meet more people. It increases your likelihood of meeting someone great so much if you are meeting more people. And this can happen in a bunch of different ways. This can happen online, which I know we have a love-hate relationship with. It's convenient, is soul-crushing at times, and also sometimes doesn't feel as romantic. It can mean, getting more involved in your community, doing volunteer stuff, getting involved at church, taking a class, traveling, joining different groups, joining a running group, getting more involved at work, changing jobs if you are really working a job where it's a super solitary position. I think a lot of us are living these really, really solitary lives and kind of okay with it. I definitely am one of those people, but it's just not an option if we're wanting to meet our person. We have to be out in the world more. And it's maybe it is possible that without getting out into the world, you could still meet your person. I think it lowers the likelihood and also increases the likelihood that it'll take a lot more time. So that's the first one is got to meet more people. Got to meet more people. The second thing is that we've got to take ourselves out of the friend zone. I think a lot of times, if you are one of the people who's like, hey, I'm single way past when I thought I would be, I thought this would happen a long time ago. It's happened for all my friends, but it isn't for me. You feel like you are perpetually in the friend zone. Like people want to be your friend, but they don't ask you out, or it's like they'll befriend you and then they'll ask out your friend. And that's a super frustrating place to be. And sometimes it does happen without our participation or consent. Like that absolutely is a thing. But I think for a lot of us who feel like we are perpetually in the friend zone, some of that friend zoning is happening from us. This is a hard thing to explain. It's a hard thing to kind of understand or like identify in your own life. But if we go back to the job example, if you don't think that you're qualified for a job, you're not going to apply for it. If you don't think that you're a good fit, like even if you do apply and do interview, it's going to come out in the interview that you don't think that you're good enough for this role. And I think that when we've been treated like a friend and nothing more for so long, it's really hard to believe that we'll ever be treated as anything else, that we'll ever be seen romantically. And so I think that there is a part of us that like kind of doesn't show up romantically anymore. Like we just immediately like sit in the friend zone seat because we're like, we're going to end up there anyway. This one's a hard one to change, but I think that even recognizing that that might be happening for you is a good place to start. Like, do you automatically sit in the friend zone? Is that automatically where you assume you're going to be? Yes, that does preserve your heart a little bit by choosing it yourself instead of having someone just put you there, but it's not getting you to where you want to go. Which brings us to number 3, which is sort of an actionable way to walk you through that. So number 3 is to ask for help. This is absolutely one of the best things that I've ever done for myself in every corner of my life is ask for help. I think that there's this idea that you're better or stronger or like get some extra award if you're able to tough it out and do something yourself. Maybe those awards exist sometimes, but especially when we're talking about the most important areas of our lives, we want those things to get better. We want to move forward. And so why wouldn't we talk to people or like get people in our team and on our corner and guiding us who can actually make that happen? So when I say ask for help, I mean that in 2 ways. The first is when we're someone who kind of automatically sits in the friend zone, I think sometimes we do that because there might be something going on with us or with our lives or with our person or our appearance that makes us feel like we aren't worthy of being chosen. I don't know that we would use those words because that's a pretty strong way to say that. But I think deep down, that's a little bit of what we're feeling. Asking for help. If there's something like that for you, if you're like, hey, I don't think that I'm ready for a relationship because this is my living situation, or I'll probably be ready to put myself out there once this job thing changes, or I feel like maybe someone would like me or choose me if I was more ... If you are holding back because of one of those things, it's going to make a big difference in your relationships and how they play out. And so in asking for help, I would say, ask for the kind of help that would help you get through whatever that sort of blockage is. Maybe it's some coaching. Maybe it very well might be therapy. Maybe it has to do with your finances or your lifestyle or your body image, or maybe it has to do with your health. And I think you're asking for help in 2 different ways. One is help fixing whatever the thing it is, or whatever the thing is. If you feel like, well, I can't really date because I'm like, I'm living with my aunt and uncle, and like I feel like that's weird, and I feel like that needs to change. Doing whatever you need to do to be able to make some concrete changes to get into a different position where you can actually confidently put yourself out there and get into a relationship. That's one of the ways that you can ask for help. But the other thing is, maybe that thing about you doesn't need to change at all. Maybe it's just your mindset around it. Maybe that isn't a deal breaker about you. You just think it is. And so you treat it like one. And so it kind of ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy. And in that case, the kind of help that you need is someone who can help you get around that roadblock in your own mind, which is really hard. So that's the first piece of this, is asking for help, whether it's therapy, whether it has to do with your health, your body image, your lifestyle, your finances. There are a lot of things that hold us back from thinking that we're ready for or worthy of a relationship. And getting help with those things will help you feel more ready to start your love life. And they will also make your future relationships so much better, because those things, those deal breakers in your head, whatever they might be, don't always automatically go away when you get into a relationship. There's something that you need to work through, whether it's work through it physically and logistically or mentally. It's really worth doing that work. And that's a huge step forward that you can take this year that will pay off in a bazillion different ways. The second thing that I'm talking about when it comes to getting help is navigating singleness and dating is so hard. I don't know why any of us feel like we should do it alone, but we do. This is one of those things where it's like, it feels crazy to ask for help. I remember I did a handful of therapy sessions after a really bad breakup in college, and I felt silly for going to therapy for like a breakup. That felt like a really trivial thing to go to therapy for. But I was struggling for so long in the wake of that breakup. I needed help to get through it. And I wish everyone would take that step because it helped so much. This is hard. This is vulnerable. In putting yourself out there to be in a relationship, you are putting yourself out there in the most vulnerable and intense and tender way possible. Like we said, it's not just showing off your skills and saying, hey, like, do you want to hire me to organize this in your office? You're saying, hey, do you like me enough and value me enough? And are you attracted to me enough to want to tie your life to me? And if they say no, you're going to be crushed. And not only that, but we're doing this, we're dating and we're being single in front of a whole audience of people who have all kinds of opinions about what this is supposed to look like and the exact right way to do it. And if you're doing it this way, it's totally wrong. And oh, are you still single? And oh, like, wow, still not married, I see. You're doing this in front of an audience, and that makes it 1,000 times harder. And then the other reason that this is so crazy to do by ourselves is because you're not just dating. What you're doing is you're looking for a person to share your life with. You are interviewing potential life partners, potential lifelong business partners, financial partners, roommates, travel buddies. You're interviewing and looking for the parents of your, or the parent of your future kids, the grandparent of your future grandkids, part of your family and part of your story forever, the person you're going to spend every day with for your whole life. This is not silly. This isn't trivial. This isn't light. This is a big deal. This is just not something that we can DIY or throw at the wall and just hope it sticks. It's way too important for that. And the ramifications of the decisions that we make while we're single and dating and getting married have lasting, lifelong, and generational impacts on ourselves and so many people that we love. And so what in the world makes us think that we should be doing this alone? What in the world? So I have 2 resources that I want to share with you that can kind of get you started if you're like, yes, I know that I'm not meeting any new humans at all, and therefore it's going to be hard to meet the person I'm looking for. Or if you're thinking, yeah, I automatically just go find my way to the friend zone and sit in a seat because like, obviously they're going to put me there. I need to change one or both of these things. Or there's something holding me back that makes me feel like I'm not ready for a relationship or worthy of a relationship. And I know I have to get around that if I'm going to be able to fully offer my heart to another person. There are 2 resources that I want to share with you that will help you take these next steps. So one, I mentioned therapy, and I mentioned it because it is one of my very favorite things that I've ever done in my life. And I go back all the time for all kinds of different reasons. My favorite resource for getting started with therapy is called BetterHelp. I've partnered with them for years. For years, they had a whole branch of their company that was called Faithful Counseling. And it was specifically for like faith-based counseling. So we've worked together for years and years and years. They merged the 2 together. And now it's just BetterHelp, but you can select if you are a person who wants to have counseling that's like more faith-based in one way or another, you can like request that as you're filling the thing out. But the reason I like BetterHelp is because for a lot of us, the thing holding us back from getting the help we need is either finances or feeling totally lost. Like, where in the world would I ever find a therapist? BetterHelp is significantly cheaper than just regular therapy. So it's a great way to get started. They have financial aid available. And it's also just so much easier to sign up. It's totally online. If you don't like the person you're paired with, you can switch without having to like go back to the beginning and have a whole process of interviewing another therapist. It's just a really, really easy step into the world of therapy, which is great, especially if you're like, I'm not totally sure about this. It's just a pretty low barrier of entry, and I really like that. I have much more information. I created a whole page of my website for it because therapy has been so life-changing for me, and it's been so important in my life that I really am on this lifelong mission to help women get the help they need. And so all the information about BetterHelp, about my therapy recommendations and thoughts about it. If you go to stephaniemaywilson.com/counseling, all that information is there. And I also have a promo code there too. So for the second thing, like I said, I can't sit on the sidelines of this conversation anymore. I just can't. There are too many incredible single women in the world who are being talked to in ways that don't make sense, that are not helpful, that are harmful actually. And this is just too hard to do by yourself. Everything is easier with a friend in our corner. And so if you're feeling like, hey, I do want this to be a year that my love story moves forward, I want to put myself out there. I want to take myself out of the friend zone. I want to go out of 2025 differently than I walked into it when it comes to my love life. I would love to be the person in your corner. I'm super excited about this. And I also have a lot of like, don't talk to my friend that way, fury boiling in my heart. So all of that is why I'm just so excited to tell you that registration for Love Your Single Life is going to be opening up again on February 11th. If this is your first time hearing about the course, Love Your Single Life is the only course for Christian women that teaches a step-by-step plan to savor, enjoy, and truly make the most of your single life, all while setting yourself up for amazing relationships and marriage in the future. If you want more information about it, I have tons and tons on my website. Just go to stephaniemaywilson.com/singlelife. And while you're there, make sure to put your name on the waiting list. And then side note, if you're listening to this episode after February 11th or like a totally different time of the year, still head over to that website. Again, it's stephaniemaywilson.com/singlelife and get your name on the waiting list. I'm not totally sure when I'm going to be teaching this next, but that way you're the first to know whenever I do. Here's just the last thing I want to leave you with. Sometimes when we're single longer than we thought we would be, it feels like we're the only ones. We look around and it's like everyone else has their person. Everyone else is married and having kids. And like I truly am just alone. And I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. One of my favorite things about this course is seeing women who feel like they're the only ones get to connect with a whole bunch of other women who feel like they're the only ones. And that sigh of relief to just know that you're not alone makes everything so much better. But also, you don't have to figure this out alone. If you're feeling lost or stuck, or like this is a big deal and you don't even know how to tackle it, like you're right, this is a big deal. This is hard. It is absolutely as hard as it feels. But you don't have to do it by yourself. I, many years ago, was driving in the car with my best friend and we pulled into her apartment building and we're just sitting in the car when her phone rang and it was her boyfriend at the time. And we just sat there, thought it would be a quick conversation until like pretty quickly we realized that this conversation was going in a direction she had not expected and he was breaking up with her. And we're sitting there and, I'm wondering like, should I get out of the car? Like, does she need some privacy? And, or like, what is happening? And she's totally blindsided. And as she's kind of the weight of his words are sort of settling in on her, she reached across the console and grabbed my hand. And we just like white knuckle held hands for the rest of the conversation. And I just think about that every time I think about what this is like. To be single, to put yourself out there, to get into relationships, to get out of relationships, to hope, to find someone to share your life with, and to feel like that hope gets crushed over and over and over again, to feel rejected, to feel left behind. And so many of us, all of us, feel those things in one way or another as we are on this journey. But I just am such a believer in the fact that it is so much better when you have a friend next to you who is holding your hand and just with you in it. And so I just encourage you with my whole heart to find someone who can be that for you. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one struggling with this, and you don't have to walk through it alone. And if you need someone to sit in the car with you and white knuckle hold your hand, I would be really honored to be that person. Okay, friends, that's all we have for this episode, but we'll be back next week with another episode of Girls Night, and we have so much good stuff that we are getting into this season, so make sure you're subscribed. And if you find an episode where you're like, so-and-so should listen to this, or like this totally relates to this friend, or I know my friend's always looking for a good podcast, I would be super honored if you'd share the show with them. You can send them a link, you can send them a screenshot, you can post, this is what I'm listening to on social media, and I'll reshare it. That is how we invite more friends to our girls' nights. And so I'd be really honored to have your help sending invitations out into the world. Thank you. I will see you next week for another episode of Girls' Night, and I'll talk to you then.